Hey, good morning, everybody. Today we're in Matthew chapter 22, and just a little bit of background to help us understand this. The first 20 chapters of Matthew span about 3 years of Jesus' life, and then the last 9 chapters, chapters 20 through 28, actually only cover about a week of his life. So obviously Matthew wanted us to hone in on these important events between on the tail end, the resurrection of Jesus, and on the front end, Palm Sunday, where Jesus comes into the temple area riding on a donkey. And today we're in Matthew 22. And it's the third of 3 parables that Jesus is responding to the leading priests and the elders of the Jewish temple. They asked him a question. They said, "By what authority are you teaching these things?" Now, it's a parable of a wedding banquet. And weddings were huge, as they were in and are in all societies. A little bit of a background in the Jewish understanding of weddings, at least at this time. The weddings were prearranged, and the moms and dads would meet to sign a contract for the bride and groom beforehand. And maybe that was the first time the bride and groom actually met. And then this was not actually the time that they would begin living together. The bride would go back and live with her parents, and the groom would go off and prepare the home. And when the home was ready, he would come unannounced, and the ceremony and the banquet would follow. And weddings were, as I said, a huge deal, and even such a huge deal that often the host would provide the proper clothing for the guests. And in this parable, God the Father is throwing this big banquet for his son, Jesus. And the priests and elders, the Jewish priests and elders, were the ones who were the obvious invitees, I should say, but they refused to come. In fact, when the banquet was announced, it was announced by, Jesus tells us that it includes the prophets like John the Baptist and the prophets before him. And it says that they were treated very poorly. They were even murdered. And it was not that the invited guests were not able to come to the feast, the leading chief priests and elders, but they just simply refused. They had lots of excuses. Mainly it was a pride thing. They were just busy. They said, "Oh, we've got our normal life. We don't want to come." At least that's the way the parable shows. And with the refusals of the first batch of guests, the invitation goes out to anyone and everyone. These very religious people had rejected the king's invitation, and now the invitation is open to everyone, even the Gentiles, even those who seem the least likely. In Matthew 22, verse 9, it says, "Now go out into the street corners and invite everyone you see." The very clear implication is that God's only prerequisite to come to this banquet is that they knew that they did not deserve to come, and they would receive this invitation. Now, there's one final, very interesting and even harsh ending to this parable. In verse 11, there's a man who is at the banquet, but he's not wearing the proper clothes for the feast, the ones that were supplied to him by the host. They didn't cost him anything, but he chose to wear his own clothes. And I think Jesus is simply saying, he's saying, he wants us to know how amazing God's free gift of grace actually is. In Ephesians 2:8 and 9, the Apostle Paul says that our own goodness does not qualify us to be a part of God's feast. And so he supplies us with everything that we need. His grace is sufficient. His grace is a free gift. And that we simply need to receive that invitation and give up the self-sufficiency ideas and connect to the feast. See, the feast is a metaphor of a relationship with Jesus Christ. It's not just a meager snack, but it is a lavish feast. Anything beyond anything we could ever imagine. And something we certainly do not want to miss. And so Jesus is reminding us to listen to God's invitation, and it's there for each of us because he wants a relationship with each of us. and it's a free gift, and it is so good. Have an amazing day.
If these devotional videos are helpful to you, subscribe to our channel and click the notification button so you know when we post a new video. And of course, please share them with others.